NC State's Saniya Rivers is the best wing defender in college basketball, but is also one of the biggest boomer bust prospects in the 2025 draft due to her inconsistencies as both a shooter and at rim finisher. With this college scouting series, I want to start by running through a player's stat profile, then we'll get into their strengths and improvement areas, and finally finish off with my preseason scouting grade on them as prospects. Rivers is a 6'1" wing/combo guard. She is 6'1" with a 6'5" wingspan, so one of the bigger differences between height and wingspan in this year's draft. Rivers is also one of the youngest college prospects at just over 21 years old on draft day. For her stat profile, Rivers last season averaged 12.5 points, 6.1 rebounds, 3.7 assists to 2.6 turnovers, also 2.1 steals, and 0.9 blocks on 42% from 2, 26% from 3, and 74% from the line, and played a lot of minutes as well, 35.2 minutes per game, which was one of the highest marks in the ACC. And for her strengths as a prospect, it's her on-ball defense and her off-ball defense, also her transition offense and positional passing. The main sell, though, with Rivers as a prospect is what she can do on defense. She is an absurd athlete. Like, we're talking about all defensive projection, one of the best wing defensive prospects in recent history, like probably like the best wing defensive prospect since Gabby Williams left UConn. And as far as like what she can do on the ball, Rivers handles the toughest perimeter matchups on every single night for NC State. She can defend at the point of attack against point guards, but also bigger wings. She can switch 1 through 4, like legitimately 1 through 4. My favorite thing about her defense is a super small thing, but is incredibly rare in the prospects or pros that do this are most times like the best defensive players in the world. For Rivers, she has awesome lateral mobility and processing speed in ball screen coverages. She does an insane job at reading screening angles, like looking whenever the screen's going to come. Like, she knows where the screen's going to be before it's set. She's running off that screen, rubbing off of it, whatever. Like, she doesn't let screens affect her often. And how she reads screens, because sometimes you see a really high-level defensive prospect from an athleticism standpoint struggles getting around screens just because of a processing standpoint and being too focused on the ball. But Rivers focuses on like a lot of different things on the court at once, which allows her to excel in these one-on-one pick and roll actions. She also doesn't foul a lot either. She gambles sometimes, but when she gambles, she's winning it a lot of times. Like, she has a 3% steal rate and a 2.4% block rate. Whenever she's going up for blocks one-on-one, she's trying to stay vertical, not foul, and make the right decision. The other luxury for her is being 6'1" with a 6'4" wingspan. She can smother guards at the point of attack, really contest, recover. If she's late, like if she's a second late, going around a screen, she gets beat on a cross a little bit out of position, like slightly. She has the recovery speed and the length to just contest the shot and not let it affect her. It's a nice bailout for a player to have this athletic profile as a point of attack defender. Moving to her other strength, it's her transition offense. Being able to spark transition offense from her defense is a massive, massive strength for Rivers as a prospect. 48% of her points came at the rim in transition in 2024. Like we said in the intro, the half-court finishing is a question. We'll talk about it later. But in transition, she is explosive. Like, she is all motor, all effort, all energy. She can split tight spaces with her speed and creativity as a ball handler. She is just a joy to watch attack downhill in semi-transition. For a second here, just imagine Saniya Rivers alongside Caitlin Clark in Indiana's high-powered transition offensive scheme. Just imagine that for a second. Like, Rivers being able to function in that WNBA type system is like her projection, like pretty easily being able to grab an offensive rebound or defensive rebound, being able to go for a steal, go for an outlet pass, being able to fill so many spots as a transition player. And that's not even including what she can do as a transition passer. Being able to make those hit-ahead, long passes in transition has been a weapon for NC State. Next, I think like the passing is another strength I want to focus on here. She plays point guard for NC State. They just haven't had a point guard the last couple of years, like a traditional point guard. So they've put Saniya into that role, and she's done as well as you could have possibly asked her to do. They made the Final Four last year with her as their point guard. 19.5% assist rate to a 16.2% turnover rate. Her role within NC State's system sort of reminds me of Jordan Horston whenever she was at Tennessee. Like Horston played a lot of point guard, was the primary initiator a lot for their system. The passing, being able to play make at that size is similar. But back to Rivers and her passing and like just the nuances of it. She's a good pick and roll operator. The handle is fun. She's creative with it, super tight. Also, the most important part about Saniya's offensive skill set from a passing standpoint is how she can create advantages. Advantages, if you aren't familiar, is like drawing that second defender, being able to collapse a defense and open up players to be open on the perimeter. It's the most valuable skill for a guard. And Saniya's ability to drive with her burst, her athleticism, her handle, collapse the defense, draw help defenders, and then free up a shooter on the perimeter is something she's done a lot at NC State. Helped them a lot in their Final Four run as well. She can make jump passes. She can pinpoint cutters. Is like actually like very good. Like there's not many better backdoor passers at her size in the world. Like pretty easily for me with what she can do in those scenarios. So like for her projection from a WNBA standpoint, I don't think she can be a full-time point guard. Like I'm not saying she can do that. That's not really what you're asking for her to do like at the next level. But I do think she can run some backup point guard, can handle some combo guard responsibilities in lineups with like a true point guard, but also if you put her next to another combo guard, like next to Kelsey Mitchell, for example, that could work as well with Caitlin Clark off the floor, for example. But also, if K. Mitch is off the floor, you put her next to Caitlin Clark, can do some stuff like that. Just as an example for how I see her role being in the W. But you're going to look at her to be an off-ball player as well as a cutter and just the defensive stopper as well. For her improvement areas, the questions are extremely clear. Like the issues she has in her game are super clear and they are major concerns. It's her shooting. Like, can she shoot is the major concern there. Also, the half-court finishing as well. Can she consistently finish at the rim? We know she can get to the rim. That is not a problem whatsoever. But can she finish consistently at the basket? To start with the numbers, last season, Rivers shot 27.5% on catch-and-shoot threes, 2.3 attempts per game. Also on pull-up threes, 14.3%, 0.6 attempts. And then for her pull-up two-point shooting in the mid-range, 33.6% on 3.8 attempts per game. What's fascinating about this is Rivers ranked in the 93rd percentile in terms of mid-range volume. 32.6% of her attempts come in the mid-range, which is almost the same amount of shots that come at the rim, which is not what you want for a player this athletic. She should not be taking as many shots in the mid-range as she takes at the rim. But nonetheless, her mechanics are a concern. Like the mechanics aren't super perfect and are nowhere near that. She has a super flat shot. The touch is not great. A lot of hard misses off the back of the backboard, off the back of the rim. She lets off her guide hand early when she shoots. There's players that do this and they're good shooters, but I feel like to be successful with this type of shot from like a taking your guide hand off standpoint, you need to have awesome touch. If you don't have awesome touch and you're only really using one hand to the fullest, it gives you such a low margin for error as a shooter. And there's also not much consistency in her shoulder stability either. So like, do I see her being a shooter at the next level? No, I don't really project that. We talk about Jordan Horston, Gabby Williams as comps. Those players for Seattle haven't been shooters. Horston revamped her mechanics this past season in the W, and still wasn't a good shooter. Gabby has just never been that great of a shooter. Not a shooter you're going to contest all that often. What was unfortunate about Rivers' season last year from a shot creation standpoint was she had that elite game against UConn earlier in the year. If you remember, NC State was unranked, not a lot of hype for them going into the season. They knocked off UConn at home. Rivers was like something insane, like 10 of 12 from two. The finishing was nuts in the half court. Was also making some like insane leaning jumpers in the mid range. Hit one pull up three as well. She never repeated that level or was anywhere close to that level of a shot creator the rest of the season, and it was really just fool's gold. Maybe she somehow turns it around next season. But the other concern is the half court finishing. Last season, 49.4% in the half court. Not what you want to see on 2.3 attempts per game. Like I said, way more comfortable finishing in transition in the half court. And that is because she is at her best finishing when she is going fast. In the half court, she doesn't slow down. She plays at that same speed that she does in transition. There's also a lot of ways to stop her at the rim. Not saying like, oh, obviously like she's an elite athlete, but she is not good with her left hand. She can drive left, like she can get downhill with her left, but is not great finishing with her left hand. Then on top of that, if you draw another help defender over and she's trying to finish around a big at the rim, it typically doesn't go great in the half court. Having that help defender over along with trying to force her to her left is an easy way to get her to miss. But I do feel like these issues with her finishing are way more fixable because she is an insane athlete than her shooting. Like, for example, Jordan Horston. Can Rivers take a Jordan Horston-esque finishing leap? For reference, Horston in the half court shot 43.4% at the rim as a junior at Tennessee. This is way worse than it was for Rivers, but for Horston as a senior, that went up to 50%. As a rookie in Seattle, wasn't a good finisher, but you saw the flashes. This season, in her second season, she shot 60.4% at the half court at the rim. She was the best finishing wing in the W. You bet on these athletes, these players with the physical tools and the natural ability. So like if a coach can put it together, get Rivers in the gym, get her finishing through contact, get her more reps with her left hand, there's avenues for her to revamp her approach as a driver and a finisher, but more so like with the finishing than her driving approach. Like get her to slow down, work on her deceleration ability, and I think we're talking about a super valuable cutter paired with what she can do as a passer on drives, having that dynamic there with being able to pass out of drives, but also score out of drives, makes her even more dynamic as this combo guard slash wing, alongside a primary initiator like Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, whoever it is. It makes her so much more malleable in a WNBA system. And then for her preseason scouting grade, it's a 50 grade for me. I think we're talking about a starting caliber player, someone that can play playoff minutes, can be a valuable rotation piece. There are some star outcomes for Rivers. Why you would draft her super high is not only the defense, but the ability to be some high-level defender that can anchor a defense on the wing, can be your top defensive wing. You look at like players like Elena Beard, we've seen the W before. Can you have an Elena Beard type defender in 2024 and be super successful offensively? I'm not completely sure. Like that is the question with Horston as well. Gabby Williams. So like if Rivers can figure out the shot somehow, can revamp the mechanics, the finishing gets to a Horston type level paired with her passing, her defense being a sure thing. However, if she doesn't improve the finishing, if she just still is this level of finisher or is worse when she's facing WNBA level rim protectors, the shooting is this bad or around this level, she has the defense. The defense would still there from a projection standpoint. I'd be shocked if she's not an above average defender or an elite defender, but just being a defensive specialist is like a 30 grade, a 40 grade maybe, like some like average rotation player, someone you play 10 to 15 minutes a night, not someone extremely valuable. She has those outcomes as well. There's some boomer bust to her game. The upside's there, but the downside is real as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What is your evaluation on Rivers as a prospect? Pretty long here, but just a super interesting prospect from a philosophical standpoint. Can't wait to watch her play at NC State this season alongside Zoe Brooks. Fun system with NC State, having the up-tempo offense, playing in transition. It's a blast to watch. Let me know in the comments below. What is your evaluation on Rivers as a prospect? What team would you like to see her play for in the W? Let me know. Subscribe for more WNBA content covering basketball from college, the draft, to the W, to international, and even some high school content as well with recruits and top prospects on the way as well. Anyways, I'll see y'all next time.